Hi, this is Gary V. Listen to a Filipino radio experience right here in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio.
Your Filipino radio experience is finally here in Las Vegas.
Nandiyan ka na naman. Tinutukso-tukso ang aking puso.
Get the PHLV radio app from the App Store and Google Play.
Just like a friend from back home.
Hi everyone, this is Lana Misalucha and you are listening to PHLV Radio.
PHLV Radio.
Reeves Immigration Law Group now brings you Immigration Law on Your Side.
All right, welcome to another Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. It's Kuya Yo coming from the PHLV Radio Studios sa mainit na Las Vegas. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat o magandang hapon o magandang umaga saan man po kayo naroon. Kasama po natin si Atty. Diza na nanggagaling sa mas malamig na San Francisco, California sa Reeves Immigration Law Group para pag-usapan mga kaibigan ang isa na namang napakainit na topic dito sa ating Immigration Law on Your Side. The most common way a person obtains a U.S. citizenship is simply by being born inside the United States, di ho ba? However, some people may also obtain U.S. citizenship at birth even if they were born outside of the United States or born abroad. It is often difficult to determine whether a person is considered a U.S. citizen at birth because the analysis may include several factors. Napaka-complicated. So with us tonight is Attorney Fil-Am Diza of Reeves Immigration Law Group who will guide us in understanding how one acquires U.S. citizenship despite being born abroad. I-welcome na po natin si Attorney Fil-Am Diza. Magandang gabi po sa iyo, Attorney.
Magandang gabi Kuya Johan, and of course sa lahat ng mga viewers and listeners natin dito sa West Coast, magandang gabi, at of course sa Pilipinas, magandang umaga po sa inyo. At saan man kayo, sana po nasa mabuti kayong kalusugan at manatiling manood ang programa ng PHLV Radio and of course ang Immigration Law on Your Side. Very timely po ang ating pag-uusapan dahil ito po yung acquisition ng US citizenship na banggit mo nga Kuya Yo, dahil this is really a very important discussion dahil once you are a citizen at birth, Kuya Yo, hindi mo na kailangan yung filing a petition, yung usapan natin, either through consular processing or through adjustment of status, di ba? Dahil may mga payment yan sa immigration at Kuya Johan. So, it's really very timely ang ating pag-usapan at samahan niyo po kami sa aming discussion ni Kuya Yo dito sa acquisition of U.S. citizenship at birth.
Nako, napakagandang topic nga ito, Attorney, and very timely as you said. Dahil not a lot of us know na pagka ikaw pala ay pinanganak sa labas ng Amerika, ay pwede ka pa rin maging U.S. citizen. A lot of factors, mga kaibigan. So, iisa-isahin natin, Attorney. Paano nga ba nagiging foreigner? U.S. citizen pagka ikaw ay pinanganak sa labas ng United States of America?
Yes, Kuya Johan, ito yung mga sitwasyon na where the U.S. citizen either works abroad, kagaya ng U.S. Embassy or any international organization, non-profit international organization, or siguro, nagta-travel lang at biglang nagkaroon ng karelasyon or one-night stand at nagkaroon ng anak. So these are the scenarios where the child will be born, outside the United States. And ang iba akala nila either hindi sila US citizen or iba nila automatic kaagad-agad. But of course, there are certain factors to consider. We have to identify and discuss ito. Kuya Johan, unang-una of course yung number one would be the date of birth of the child. Mm-hmm. Nagiging relevant lang of course yung mga medyo matagal nang ipinanganak, pero yung mga bago hindi nagaano yan. That's number one. Number two would be yung US citizenship ng magulang, right? Are both parents U.S. citizen, right? Or just one parent is a U.S. citizen. So kailangan i-identify natin yan. Pangatlo, Kuya Johan, would be whether the parent is whether the parents are married or not. Kasi very relevant kasi magkakaiba ang distinction or factors to consider whether the parents are born or rather whether the parents are married or whether the child was born what we call in wedlock or out of wedlock. And pang-apat would be yung length of residency ng US citizen dito sa US. So take note, mga kababayan, if you were never been in the US, right, for just one day, right, hindi po nag-acquire ang bata ng US citizenship. And that's possible, Kuya Johan, lalo na yung mga nabanggit natin kanina that they were born there and they were able to acquire US citizenship there. Doon na sila lumaki abroad at nagkaroon ng anak. So in that situation where none of the parents have ever resided in the US, then hindi na sila makapag-acquire ng US citizen. But of course, this is a very discussion and will give our audience possible scenarios dito sa sitwasyon na to, Kuya Johan, para maliwanag. But of course, pinapaalalahanan po natin ang mga viewers and listeners natin that still, if you think that you're a citizen, it's a good idea to sit down with an immigration attorney and discuss your case. Kasi yung pag-uusapan natin ngayon is only for informational purposes. At you might think that it applies to you, but it's not. So it's better to discuss and sit down with an immigration attorney.
Mhm. So, okay. So, hihimayin natin mga kababayan. I'm sure marami na kayong mga tinatanong dyan. Kilala ko si ganyan, kilala ko si ganito, nakapangasawa ng ganito, US citizen ba yung kanilang anak? So, tumutok mga kaibigan. Marami mga scenarios ito na ay isa-isahin namin ni Attorney Diza. It's very, very interesting. Okay. Attorney, both of them are US citizens and they are, for example lang, nasa Pilipinas, nanganak. What are the automatically US citizen na po ba yung anak nila?
Yeah, okay. So we have to identify, Kuya Johan, both parents are US citizen and both are they are married. Mm-hmm. So in other words, the child was born in wedlock, right? Mm-hmm. Or in other words, sa ating it's a legitimate child, right? Mm-hmm. So in that situation, right, where both parents are US citizen, kailangan lang i-prove, Kuya Johan, that one of them, right, either the mother or the father, has resided in the United States or its territories. So, ibig sabihin ng resided, Kuya Johan, since both of them are citizen anyways, they've been in the US, residing whether, pinanganak yung nanay dito sa US and dinala kaagad ng magulang sa Pilipinas at there was, 1 or 2 weeks, 1 day or, 1 week or 1 month that child or that parent has resided there, then qualifies na that their child would be considered as a US citizen.
Ayun. I know we're gonna talk about this later on, pero I'm gonna jump ahead to on this question ng ating mga kababayan. Pagka pinanganak siya doon, kailangan po ba, attorney, i-report yung kapanganakan ng bata sa isang authority of the United States, probably the embassy or the consulate? Is there a procedure by which they could report it, attorney?
Yes, Kuya Johan. Usually, pag ang bata ipinanganak kahit saan man, di ba, alimbawa sa Pilipinas or sa UK or dito sa US, nire-report muna sa place of birth, di ba? So mayroong local registrar yan. So sa atin, yung tinatawag natin na local registrar, Kuya Johan. So kahit doon ka pinanganak sa atin, required pa rin sila mag-report doon. Right? Birth certificate ng bata in the municipality or city of Manila, for example, nandoon yan. Siyempre, it states din yung pangalan ng bata, pangalan ng magulang, at of course, citizenship ng magulang. So if they're American citizen, lalagay American citizen. In that situation, Kuya Johan, doon na pumapasok yung ating second segment ng ating discussion later on na tinatawag na Consular Report of Birth Abroad. Mm-hmm. Meron din tayong counterpart actually dito sa US, Kuya Johan, di ba? Parehong Pilipino, di ba, ang magulang, or one is a US citizen, or nandito po sila na, walang status, siyempre yung anak nila US citizen at birth dahil dito pinanganak. Pero pwede rin nating i-report ang birth certificate ng ating anak dyan sa Philippine Consulate para i-forward nila sa NSO. So parang, I think this is a uniform procedure, wherever the child was born, na kailangang i-report sa local registry muna, and then if you want to claim citizenship dun sa citizenship na magulang, then dun gagawan yung consular report of birth abroad.
Ayun, okay. We're gonna get into that mga kababayan in detail mamaya-maya po lamang. But hihimayin natin itong mga scenarios by which I'm sure marami kayong mga tanong. Kanina napag-usapan natin, bahagya yung ating pareho sila US citizen, nanganak sa labas ng Amerika. Yung attorney naman, ito namang nanganak ang couple, ang isa ay United States citizen at ang isa ay non-US citizen. Ano po ang mangyayari sa anak nila?
Yes, dito mas komplikado kuya yun. Mas marami tayong client na ganyan dahil siyempre mga US citizen or former Filipinos who are now US citizen and they travel out, yung nagkakaroon ng karelasyon or girlfriend at nagkakaroon ng ng anak at doon nga pinanganak sa Pilipinas. So there's a probability and a good possibility na US citizen po ang anak ninyo. Of course, as we mentioned, if the parent were not married, right? So born out of wedlock yung bata, o yung tinatawag natin na illegitimate child. Ang isang requirement lang yun, Kuya Yo, whether the father or the mother is a US citizen. But there's another requirement. Ito yung pumapasok yung other factors na consider natin, where the parent must show that that the US citizen parent must show that he or she has resided in the US for at least 5 years. 5 taon yan before the child's birth. And 2 of which before the U.S. citizen parent obtained the age of 14 years old. 2 of them should have resided in the U.S. nung 14 years old na. So ito yung residency requirement, Kuya Johan. So hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na U.S. citizen ako, but all your life, you have resided outside the U.S. For example, sa Pilipinas po kayo all your life. Hindi po pwede ang mag-claim ng bata ang citizenship. So those are the requirements. Now, one parent is a U.S. citizen, and secondly, the U.S. citizen parent must have resided in the U.S. for at least 5 years. And two of those residency must have been done after the parent have attained the age of 14 years old. So, very important yan, Kuya Johan. So, tatanungin mo ngayon, paano kung walang 5 years? Paano kung 3 years lang? Di ba? 3 years lang yung magulang, and then dinala ka sa Pilipinas, and then hindi na nakabalik. Di ba? Doon na siya lumaki, doon nag-aral, nagkaroon ng pamilya, nag-asawa, nagkaanak. So the answer there, of course, and we have to do the petition, right? It's not the end of the world sa mga kababayan natin. Just keep in mind that there are other ways, but you have to do it quickly kasi unang-una, the child should be, lalo na yung mga born out of wedlock, Kuya Johan, right? They need to be petitioned sana and recognized as their child bago mag-18 yung bata para ma-petition naman sila. But essentially, yun po yung mga requirements if the parents are married, but one of them is not a U.S. citizen.
Okay, so key takeaway from that point, the attorney, mga kaibigan, dapat before mag-18 yung bata ay nakapag-apply na ng US citizenship. Tama po ba, attorney?
Correct, Kuya Johan. Tama yan.
And I'm sure marami, attorney, ang nagtatanong na ngayon at the back of their minds, especially mga kababayan natin. How about po, attorney, because you were saying about the residency requirement, how about po yung for example, the father is the US citizen and is serving in the US military and is in the Philippines or in other parts of the world, and they've been there for a long time. Is there an exemption for that residency requirement, attorney?
Yes, Kuya Johan, they are considered as an extension of U.S. territory or U.S. Jurisdiction. So they are considered as having resided in the U.S. So pwede mag-qualify yon if they are assigned anywhere in the world, but they are serving the U.S. military. That's okay. Or probably they are serving the U.S. government. Halimbawa, assigned sila sa embassy, Kuya Johan. Then that's considered also as establishing yung residency requirement ng 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And yung nabanggit natin kanina, attorney, na hybrid, yung isa sa couple ay hindi US citizen. Is there a difference, attorney, if like the father is the US citizen and then the mom is a Filipina, for example, or the other way around naman, yung mother ang US citizen at ang father ang Pilipino? Is there a difference between the two scenarios, attorney?
Yes, Kuya Johan. If they're not married, ibig sabihin the child was born out of wedlock. Kung ang mother ay US citizen, ang maganda nito, Kuya Johan, ang requirement lang is 1 year continuous presence ng magulang. Diba? Especially those born, we just make sure after December 23 of 1952. So ang requirement lang dyan, that year of birth, which is most of our clients na are born after that year, and the mother is a U.S. citizen, and the mother has resided in the U.S. for the continuous 1 year before the child's birth. So madaling i-comply din yan, Kuya Johan, di ba? Dahil 1 year lang yung requirement. So halimbawa, pinanganak dito yung nanay, right? Automatic US citizen siya and it stayed there for 1 year. Then after that, halimbawa na umuwi na yung magulang. Halimbawa, walang status yung magulang, umuwi na siya at ayaw na niyang dito sa United States, right? Then stay there for isang taon lang dito sa atin o 2 taon lang sa United States and umuwi na sa Pilipinas, then that mother, even if they are not married with the father of the child, and then the child is considered as a US citizen at birth.
Okay, so tandaan yan mga kaibigan. I know, medyo complicated. Akala natin ganun kadali lang yun. That's why maganda if you are in this situation na kumonsulta sa ating mga lawyers or mga immigration experts regarding your situation. We've encountered several stories about this and yung iba naman ay hindi nila alam na US citizen na pala sila. I encountered a friend before who was trying to apply for US citizenship and then in the very end yung father niya pala ay nag-serve sa US military and siya pala ay US citizen na. So mga kaibigan, if you have questions about this, mangyari po lamang na kumontak sa ating mga kaibigan from Reeves Immigration Law Group. And especially if you're in the Philippines, meron po silang opisina dyan sa Makati. Attorney, yung napag-usapan natin kanina, yung pagpinanganak, kailangang i-report. I'd like to get into more detail on that. How do they report that to the embassy sa kunwari nasa Pilipinas pinanganak how do they report that to the embassy, attorney?
Yes, before we proceed, Kuya Yon, very briefly lang, a reminder sa ating mga kababayan, when a client consults with me regarding a consular report of birth abroad, meron kaming table yan, Kuya Yon. So it's not really easy discussing, and giving you the exact factors and the situations kasi may mga listahan tayo yan and we have to match kung ano yung nasa table, na ito, one parent is a US citizen, they were born of wedlock, dito pinanganak. Pero briefly din pala, dun sa magulang, which is hindi ko nasagot yata kanina before, topic natin consular report of birth abroad. Now, if the father is the U.S. citizen, right? And the mother is the foreigner, right? And they're not married. Ang difference is aside from the residency na 5 years na ipoprovide nila, kailangan i-establish yung relationship, Kuya Johan, right? So either nakalista ka doon sa birth certificate ng magulang at marami sa mga client natin sitwasyon where ang father is not listed dahil either nga, probably nagbabakasyon lang itong tatay at nagkaroon ng karelasyon, di ba, hindi isinulat yung pangalan, right? Or probably nasa military dati sa US bases natin sa Subic or sa Clark, nagkaroon ng karelasyon, hindi sinulat ang pangalan. So, very important that the US citizen father must have recognized the child before the child turns 18. Yun ang nabanggit mo kanina, recognition. So, hindi lang sa birth certificate ng bata, kundi support. Di ba? Kasi hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, anak ko pala to. And then kahit i-DNA test mo kami, 100%, 99.9% anak mo yan. It's not enough. The law requires that you also have to establish a relationship with the child. Di ba? So paano mo i-recognize yan? By either pumunta ka sa court, i-legitimize mo yung bata, or i-recognize mo yung bata. Or, even in writing, that should be enough. Yung affidavit din sa consulate, pwedeng gawin yon. Or, pwede rin, show support. Hindi pwede na dumating ka sa buhay ng bata, 20 years old na yung bata. Di ba? Na pwede mo na sabi, anak ko to, citizen to. So ito ang reminder natin sa mga kababayan. At marami dyan na hindi rin inaayos ang birth certificate ng mga bata. Sabi ko, unang action niyon is ayusin yung birth certificate ng bata, do a DNA test, right? And then start the consular report of birth abroad, or at least i-petition nila kung hindi nila ma-meet yung certain requirements. So ito po yung mga sitwasyon. And again, nire-remind natin mga kababayan natin that these are very difficult situations na kailangan talaga ng evaluation ng immigration attorney because as I said, may hawak-hawak tayong libro ng immigration and nationality law just to make sure that we give you the correct advice. Now it's very, yung ating second part ng discussion natin, since let's say pinanganak po kayo sa abroad, right? At alam nyo you're a US citizen and yung birth certificate ninyo nakalagay, halimbawa sa PSA, yung dating NSO, nakalagay na ang tatay po ninyo ay US citizen, at ang nanay nyo ay Filipino citizen. So now you want to obtain citizenship, right? So ang kailangan po ninyo is yung tinatawag nating consular report of birth abroad. So you're just saying that that you were born outside the US or born abroad, and you are acquiring US citizenship because one of your parents is a US citizen. So yun ang ibig sabihin, Kuya Johan, ng consular report of birth abroad, reporting your birth to the US Embassy and claiming that you are a US citizen, and therefore, kailangan mo ng proof that you're a citizen, and that's the number one proof, is to obtain that consular report of birth abroad. So usually ang nag-a-apply yan, Kuya, lalo na yung mga bagong panganak o mga bata pa, usually syempre yung magulang, right? Pwede rin yung the other parent or the foreigner parent, yung Filipino parent, Filipino o Filipino parent na nasa Pilipinas. Kasi halimbawa nasa US yung tatay, pero kailangan pa rin ng documentation ng magulang, di ba, ng US citizen. Siyempre, kailangan mo ng proof yan that this person, the one of the parents is a US citizen. So ipakita mo yung birth certificate na magulang or certificate of citizenship niya, naturalization certificate. And of course, yung sinasabi natin ng proof, di ba, that he has resided in the US for 5 years. So best proof dyan, Kuya Johan, of course, yung taxes, right? Proof that he has been working for the last 5 years or more than 5 years, or yung social security statement. Or kahit yung school records. May mga client kami na hindi nagtrabaho, right? Grade school and or high school, and then nag-travel na sa Canada or sa UK or sa Pilipinas, then we can also request school records showing that this person has, went to school, in the US and for the duration ng kanyang grade and middle school, and therefore na-meet niya yung 5 years residency requirement. So maraming mga tawag nito, Kuya, maraming mga documentation yan ipoprovide natin sa embassy to claim that the child is considered as a US citizen.
All right. And I'm sure marami kayong mga tanong, mga kaibigan. I-comment lamang po sa ating feed ngayon, and we will be responding to that. Attorney, babalikan ko lang konti yung nabanggit nyo kanina. Nabanggit nyo bahagyang bahagya yung DNA test. I'm sure ang ating mga kababayan ay magtatanong. Nasa isip nila at usong-uso na ngayon ang mga DNA testing na yan. Kailangan ba talaga yung DNA testing? Aside from the obvious, for example, yung father is yung dominant trait dun sa features ng bata. Mukhang Amerikano naman talaga yung bata. Pero is it required yung DNA testing, attorney?
That's really a good question, Kuya Johan. Usually sa mga sitwasyon na the child is out of wedlock, di ba? Especially if the father has an existing marriage, right? So kahit kamukha mo pa yan o puting-puti yan, or gringo tawag na nila, but kailangan mo pa rin establish, Kuya Johan, yung relationship. Aside from the birth certificate and aside from the relationship, they may or may not require DNA test. Usually ang embassy po ang nagre-require yan, lalo na kung kulang-kulang po kayo ng documentation. So, but it won't prevent you from doing your own DNA. Ang problema lang dyan, Kuya Johan, kung pangunahan mo ang embassy, lalo na kung hindi yan recognized, hindi ka dun sa St. Luke's o sa mga accredited ng Department of State, baka paulit sa'yo yan. So, ang suggestion natin is, of course, i-document mo yan ng relationship mo, and then if they require, then you're willing to do the DNA test. Ang isa sa mga bigger issue natin dito, Kuya Johan, actually, lalo na sa mga born out of wedlock, is nasaan ka nung nabuo yung bata. Right? That's a really a good question, kasi lalo na if the US citizen has the work, in the US, and all his life or her life was here in the US, right? Lalo na sa US citizen father. And now, titignan nila ngayon kung nasaan ka at the time of conception ng bata. Kasi nag-travel ka ba talaga, di ba, sa Pilipinas, nasaan yung stamp ng passport mo, at that time na na-conceive yung bata. So let's say pinanganak yung bata ng October, September, dapat i-prove mo na nasa Pilipinas ka ng January, di ba? Yung 9 months conception ng bata. So that's a very important requirement ng embassy, lalo na sa mga born out of wedlock. Pero, kung nagkiklaim ka na anak mo yan, then you have to have those documents to show that this child is really your child.
Or it could be another way around too. Yung mother naman, for example, yung father yung US citizen at yung mother ang nag-travel papunta dito sa US. May nangyari pag uwi nila sa Pilipinas, ay pag-uwi niya sa Pilipinas, pinanganak after 9 months. Pwede rin ma-establish yung ganun, attorney, ano? Na yung mother yung
Correct.
nag-travel.
Yes, Kuya Han, it works both ways. Except they have to prove that the child was actually theirs and they were there. Kasi marami rin mga client natin, Kuya Johan, that, alam mo yung shortcut sa atin where they name the child under them, since birth, marami na sa atin. And when I ask them, nasaan ka nang pinanganak ang bata or nasaan ka nung na-conceive ang bata, stuff like that, nasaan tatay. So you have to really dig into it kasi hindi po pwedeng, anak ko to, nakapangalan sa akin. That's not enough. You have to look at where they were when the child was conceived and when the child was born. Kasi otherwise, Kuya Johan, if they're going to proceed with the consular report of birth abroad or even petitioning children na kahit kinonsider nilang anak nila since birth na wala namang legal adoption, that's not considered as a legal or legitimate or adopted child for all intents and purposes. And immigration take this very seriously, and then the petitioner or whoever is applying would be charged of human smuggling. And that's a very serious accusation and serious charge kung kayo pa i-charge ng human smuggling. But anyway, alam din natin na kung ano ang tama at mali. But when we explain to our clients that this doesn't work because this is not really child, then most of them will back down and hear and heed our advice.
I'm sure because it's such a complicated issue nga, maraming scenarios. One of the things I'm thinking about is paano, attorney, kung of course yung bata naging eligible siya for US citizenship, ni-report na and everything. How about yung mother who is not a citizen, continued to reside in the Philippines as a Filipino citizen and hindi naman pinakasalan or they were never married with the father, which is a U.S. citizen back in the United States. Paano yung mother? Will she ever become eligible to become a United States citizen kung hindi naman siya pinakasalan or they were never married?
That's really a very good question, Kuya Johan, and we encountered many situations like that. Unfortunately, they are not considered as U.S. citizen. They cannot derive citizenship from the children, right? And they cannot be petitioned by the children until they reach the age of 21. Doon lang sila pwedeng i-petition ng kanilang anak. And we have situations where yung US citizen has medical condition, a special child, and the mom would like to take advantage of the benefits dito sa US kasi mas maganda kung dito lumaki yung bata. US citizen naman siya, and be able to, to obtain benefits sa US citizen. Unfortunately, yung mother nag-try ng mag-apply ng US citizen, they got denied, just because wala siyang strong ties kasi single mom, may anak siyang US citizen, and there are other ways din naman, and unfortunately, as I mentioned, that would be a separate discussion natin. They can be able to apply for humanitarian parole para, kung mayroong medical condition ng bata to be treated in the US, pwede yon. Studies might be a different situation. Pwede sila mag-aral yung nanay and then alagaan yung anak and stuff like that, as long as they can show that they meet all the requirements. But as to answer your question, Kuya Yon, the simple answer, the answer is no. The mother will not derive citizenship from US citizen child until that child turns 21 para petitionin siya ng kanyang anak.
Or the father finally decides to marry the mom.
That's true. That's correct. Yeah, that's a very good scenario. If they are eligible to marry, right, and capable to get married, then that's the easiest and fastest way for the mother to immigrate into the U.S.
Wow. So, halad natin na mga kaibigan, automatic na. So, ito pala, mga ganitong situation. Attorney, kanina nabanggit nyo yung mag-age out, 18 years old, yung bata. How about kung, sometimes when we're in the Philippines, we get caught up with life. Life is happening there and all of a sudden, lagpas ka na ng 18, nasa 25 ka na or baka 30 ka pa, saka ka nag-isip na, I want to go to the United States. Baka Amerikano ako. What is the relief on that, attorney, kung lagpas ka na ng 18 years old?
Yung sa 18 years old, Kuya Johan, usually applies only for out of wedlock. Di ba? Lalo na ko ang tatay, the U.S. citizen father, and they were born out of wedlock. That applies to the 18 years old na kailangan magkaroon ng consular report of birth abroad or kailangan maka-claim na yung US citizenship. But there are situations, Kuya Johan, even if they turn more than 21, pwede pa rin mag-claim ng US citizenship, right? In fact, may mga sitwasyon where they were able to establish that the grandfather was a US citizen, then the father who lived in the Philippines was also a US citizen, and the child was able to establish that US citizen. Yun yung palagi sinasabi nila, napanood ko sa TV na sinasabi nitong si Attorney so-and-so that, ang lolo ko was able, I was able to claim, acquire citizenship from my lolo, But the reality there also was that the father was also a U.S. citizen. So kaya siya nakapag-acquire ng U.S. citizenship. And again, as we mentioned, these are complicated discussions and complicated scenarios where we really have to look into the laws that was existing at that time, lalo na kung may edad na po kayo, kailangan natin tignan kung ano yung mga batas when you were born para makita natin kung ano yung factors to consider whether you are a U.S. citizen or not. Now, kung nasa Pilipinas kayo, ganun pa rin yung procedure. It's a consular report of birth abroad. If you are in the United States, pwede rin kayo mag-apply yung tinatawag natin na N600. Basically, it's application of certificate of citizenship, right? Certificate of citizenship, you have to submit that application with USCIS with a fee, and of course yung supporting documents like yung nabanggit natin kanina that parents are US citizen, parents has resided here and stuff like that. So yun lang ang kailangang establish ninyo, and if the USCIS determines that you're a citizen, i-issue sa iyo yung certificate of citizenship, and after that you're able to apply for a US passport.
Okay, medyo complicated nga mga kaibigan itong usaping ito. Kaya mangyari lamang pong kumonsulta sa ating mga kaibigan from Reeves Immigration Law Group. Nandiyan si Attorney Diza para sa inyong mga katanungan. Attorney, kumusta po ang ating law firm sa San Francisco? Yung mga kaibigan po natin, pwede na pumasyal sa inyo?
Yes, Kuya Johan, we're back to in the office and we are accepting clients already. Not on the full capacity, interval of at least 1 hour. Nire-recommend pa rin natin, Kuya Johan, na Zoom, kagaya ng ginagawa natin, o by telephone. Pero di natin maiwasan, siyempre, yung mga gustong pumasyal sa ating opisina, you are welcome to come and see us for a consultation. It's still free as of now, as we talk today, June 30th. Maraming salamat, Kuya Johan, sa patuloy niyong pag-imbita sa atin para magbigay ng public service sa ating mga kababayan. At pag-usapan nga natin that acquisition of US citizenship is a very complicated matter, right? And of course, there's a really huge advantage sa ating mga kababayan if you're a US citizen because, if you're a child, you're growing up, or even if you're an adult wanting to come back to the US with a US citizen passport, mas madali yon because you're able to come and live in the US, study in the US, work in the US, put a business in the US, and also petitioning family members out, in the Philippines. Yun po ang advantage po if you determine that you are a US citizen. Kumonsulta po sa amin, you can visit our website at www.reeves.com, sa aming mga social media platforms at Reeves Immigration Law Group, my personal Facebook, FJ Diza, Immigration Attorney. And also, I would like to advise the public that we just invited another partner to join us, Attorney Ben Loveman, who has been with us since 2011, just became a partner. He joins me, May Zhang, Devin, and Eric Walsh as partners of Reeves Immigration Law Group. Maraming salamat ulit, Kuya Johan, at sa susunod ulit, at hopefully you continue to stay safe.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Diza, and give our regards to our friends out there in San Francisco, California. Nakakaingit ang weather ni Attorney dyan sa San Francisco. At kami dito sa Las Vegas ay continuously perfect weather. Hundreds kami dito sa Las Vegas. In the meantime, mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Yo from Las Vegas, Nevada. Maraming salamat again for joining us tonight on Immigration Law on Your Side. And it's brought to you by Reeves Immigration Law Group right here at PHLV Radio. We will see you next time. Stay safe. God bless.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has been representing immigrants for nearly 40 years. Reeves Immigration Law Group has been fighting for its clients through experience and expertise. With immigration lawyers you can access at reasonable fees, even on Saturday. Payment plans are also available. Call us for your immigration solutions. We can do worldwide telephone and Skype consultations. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009. Reeves Immigration Law Group has offices in Los Angeles, San Francisco, China, and Philippines. See us at www.rreeves.com. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has just brought you Immigration Law on Your Side. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Pacific on PHLV Radio. This is your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio.
PHLV Radio.
Hello po, Ray Valera po. Listen to Filipino Radio Experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio.
Your Filipino radio experience is finally here in Las Vegas. The music that defines you.
Ako sa'yo, ipaglalaban ko.
Listen to a Filipino radio experience here in Las Vegas. Get the PHLV radio app from the App Store and Google Play.
PHLV Radio.
Just like a friend from back home.
Hi everyone, this is Lonnie Salucha and you are listening to PHLV Radio.
PHLV Radio.